Okay, so that's the idea I'm saying here about really, and let me also share with you the story. As you can see from the narrative, the way it's done here, I'm going through this. You can see, like as I said, really, it's like summaries, really like snapshots, and like pinpointing ideas about that, and it's all done by her, the first person speaker, and she's always giving us ideas about the feeling that she's being kept in this house. You know, as we know, her husband is a doctor and she's his wife, and she's giving him really, you know, or he's giving her supposedly the good time to recover and all that. So here in this story, we have these questions about, you know, man-wife relationship, husband-wife relationship, really family relationship, and the understanding and independence and so on. And I think, you know, the writer here is doing it sometimes in some way, as I said, maybe a little bit exaggerating about, you know, looking at this house with the wallpaper, because the question about looking at the wallpaper, because this is the title of, if you like, the way she feels sick of it and she wants to take it down, and that's what she did. At the end, of course, I don't know if you have read the whole story. I hope you did, because you know, as I said here, she gives us, the narrator, as you can see, you know, she's giving tiny, smaller sentences. Did I lose connection? No. Okay. You can see how the narrator is using, of course, her own voice, and she's giving us all this information about what is happening to her, about her husband as being the doctor himself, who's really taking care of her. And the funny thing is that she doesn't believe even doctors. And this is really the idea about the medications that she's taking. And I think this is to do with her own psychological problem. At the end of the day, we shall see that these things that she has developed later as a result of this. And she thinks that she has, you know, she's able to give her own cure for this, what she calls nervous depression, or like, it's not really nervous breakdown, but it's like a small, tiny depression, which is sometimes developed by women after giving birth to children. And some people feel this, and I think it's normal by so many standards, and we understand how this happens. Now, notice in the second page here of the beginning, remember last time I started, you know, the first few lines of the story, and today I will go with you, you know, step by step. And I hope, as I said, that you have read the whole thing. But the idea I'm saying, I want to highlight these ideas and to criticize them through the text and from evidence in the text. You know, for example, here, she's angry when they say here, she said, you see, he doesn't believe I'm sick. You know, this is the idea that you know, she thinks that she is sick in a way. But you see, according to doctors, you know, and this is really the idea, that sometimes if you follow, you know, medications and doctors and so on, you know, because this is science and medicine, you know, if medicine says this, so how can you say no? You know, this is the idea here, that she wants to say, you know, in a sense, she wants to say that maybe I have a problem, and people say, no, you are fine, you're okay. You see, so this is the idea when they said, you see, he doesn't believe I am sick. You know, again here, you see, she's talking to us, you know, talking to readers and people to say, well, I was in a problem, and I was in a mental, psychological problem, and maybe physical problem, and my doctor says physically and maybe psychologically, you are fine, you are not crazy, you are okay, don't worry, It's only a little time. It's only a little, maybe you feel something sad or whatever, but that's not a problem. Don't believe that you are sick. Don't say that I'm sick. So that's why here all the time she goes on to say about this, that even she said, he's a physician, like her even brother, she said. My brother is also a physician and also of high standing, and he says the same thing. You see, again, so here she's giving us another evidence or another example that all people, all men, all doctors or medical staff or medical world believe that I'm fine, but she said, no, I'm sick. Again, so she said, I was taking, and she's explaining here, I'm taking phosphates, whatever it is, and so on. She said, I want to do this, but nobody, she said, I was not allowed, or I'm not allowed to do work, housework, or like a woman, I want to do some work. Maybe here we understand how, people, especially, for, in some cases, I think, could be work here, and I agree with her when she said, I was absolutely noticed, absolutely forbidden to work. Meaning, if you think that I'm fine, so why don't you let me work and do some work at home? And the idea, I think here she's correct in a sense, again. But again, notice she said, personally, I disagree with their ideas. Personally, that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. But what is one to do? I did write for a while in spite of them, but it doesn't exhaust me a good deal, having to be so sly about it or else meet with heavy opposition. Again, she goes on, as I said, she gives a lot of snapshots. She moves on to say how she wants to follow the ideas being told to her by doctors and what she feels that she wants to do for her, because she thinks that maybe being at home and sitting at home doing something, and I think that's true, when you do something, instead of feeling all the time being lazy and doing nothing and feeling bad and so on, let me see, Emma. Just let me check. Yeah. So really, this is the idea that we agree with her to some extent, that people sometimes, this would give a better feeling and a better stimulus and so on. Notice she said again, the next one, I sometimes fancy that in my condition, if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus, but John says that very worst thing I can do is to think about my condition, and I confess it always makes me feel bad. Yeah, I mean, this is the idea. Going and doing things and fine, okay, but don't think that you are sick. Don't always use it and keep it in mind that you are not okay. I mean, work and stimulus, she said, more society here. Let me highlight this. Yeah, more society and stimulus, yes, would help. But the idea is don't overuse your mind and think about your situation and say, oh yeah, I'm this, oh yeah, I'm this, and so on. So this would be a hard thing to do, or would be a torture. And really, this is the idea about, psychological business here, about what we are talking here. So I will let it alone. And talk about the house. So here she, as I said, she starts to give us snapshots about how she's living and, in this house. And here we come to the idea about the wallpaper, or the yellow wallpaper. So she is going to narrate to us, to tell us, to give us some amusement about this house. The most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, quite 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of English places that you read about, for there are hedges and walls and gates that lock, and lots of separate little houses for the for the gardeners and people. There is a delicious garden. I never saw such a garden, large and shady, full of box-boarded paths and lined with long grape-covered arbors with seats under them. There were greenhouses too, but they are all broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the heirs and co-heirs. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. You know, again, I think this is just for our information about this house and the way she feels that, you know, the idea is she's been living in this area to supposed to be, it's like a cure, you know, it's really like a cure. When you are ill somehow, when you have a problem somehow, you need peace, you need relaxation. And, you know, that's why the doctor and her husband and her relatives said, yeah, you need to get relaxed and you need quietness and peaceful thing and so on. And I think that's nice, you know. And notice what she said, that spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid, but I don't care. There's something strange about the house. I can feel it. Again, when she said, you know, the question about ghostliness, you know, as if to say here that this house, because it's an old house at the beginning, as she said, which is like, you know, a house which is haunted by ghosts. As if to say, in a way, she's enjoying this ghostly thing, you know. Again, I think this maybe tells us something about her mentality and her attitude and really her problem, because at the end of the day, we discover that, yes, she does have some problem with her own psychology and psyche. I even said so to John one moonlight evening, but he said what I felt was a draft and shut the window, you know, something like you felt a little bit of cold and, you know, cold air coming to you, and maybe you think there are ghosts. There are no ghosts, you know. And of course here, you know, she said, I joked, or even said it, or even her husband, you know, he didn't want her to believe, or at least he doesn't believe in this, if you like. Again, as I said, notice, really, this is very interesting, you know, her paragraphs, only sentences, you know, just sentences, one sentence, a paragraph, one sentence, paragraph, one sentence, paragraph, one sentence, paragraph. I think she's doing this, as I said, because she wants to tell a huge story, really a long story. But because it's a short story, she can't give us all this detail. So that's why she had to jump, the writer had to jump from one sentence to another, as if to say, as I said, this is what I meant by snapshots, you know, snapshots, to give us all this in a nice way, to really to give us brief summaries, as I said, in that. Notice, I get unreasonably angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be so sensitive. I think it is due to this nervous condition. You see, again here, when she's saying this, and she knows, she said, I get angry, you know, again, for no reason. Maybe she had her own reasons. Again, she said, I get so sensitive, and I think this is to do with her own psychological thing. And she said, this is to do with my nervous condition. You know, again, notice all these really points which support the idea that it is something to do with her own psychology. It's nothing to do with freedom or independence or all this carry on. It's something really, here we have a man who really cares for his wife, who loves his wife, who wants her to be okay, to cure her. Like the story I told you last time about this, as I said, The Long Day's Journey into Night by Eugene O'Neill. I think the same thing, that the man sent his wife to a nice place, which is called even sanitarium. She spent there about 6 months, and then she came back as if to be okay. You know, it's the same condition. So here we can't really say that the man is dominating and controlling and all this. I mean, this is the idea, because she is, in a way, in her own way, she's explaining things, and maybe we say, and according to science, and according to medicine, and according to her own people around her, everybody around her really think that she's fine, whereas she says, I have something. Notice. But John says, if I feel so, I shall neglect proper self-control. Notice. So I take pains to control myself before him at least, and that makes me very tired. Yeah. The idea really here, he means just relax. Why do you need to say, notice here, neglect self-control, meaning relax. Don't always, always think that this is how you should behave in front of your husband, according to what he is saying. He said, forget, just relax. Stop. Notice here, the first thing he said, I should neglect self-control, meaning to be relaxed, absolutely relaxed. Again, she said, and she explains it, she said, I take pains to control myself, means I'm really suffering because of this, because I'm always conscious and trying to be aware of what I'm doing. So that's why, he's saying to her, come on, calm down. Don't worry, really take it easy, easy. And, this is really the idea. And she says that, she accepts it. She said, yeah, that makes me very tired. Well, then, okay? So that this makes you really tired. So why don't you stop it? And really, this is the idea. Here we come back to the question of, psychology. And I think this is the idea that, the man here knows that his wife needs to, at least herself, to really to pay attention to herself in a relaxed way, not to be really in sort of over excited, overdoing things. Really, this is the idea. What he's saying, or sorry, what she is saying. Again, she admits it when she said that. Again, she starts to tell us about her own imaginations, what she likes and what she doesn't like about this place. She said, I don't like our room a bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the piazza and had roses all over the window and such pretty old-fashioned chintz hangings, but John would not hear of it. I think this is again nice to see sometimes. And I think Lady Tarrant, Mrs. I don't know, O'Neill, really O'Neill, even the same thing. O'Neill in that play, as I said, longest journey into night, or long day's journey into night. I think Mrs. Tarrant that says the same thing about, she's angry about this house, which is, sometimes she says it's a terrible house and it's very old-fashioned and it's ugly and blah, 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 blah. And she says, I'm surprised that my husband loves it and why he loves it and why he can't do something about it and so on. So she starts even to hate the house in the same way, to think about her husband, that he will not, leave this place. And that's why really, here, I think there's some similarity here about it when she said, I don't like this house. I don't like this room, she said. you know, she said, at least I wanted a room downstairs, not upstairs, you know. And you know, I think this is one of the reasons, of course, as I said, it's to do with her own thinking. And she said the idea, notice, my husband would not listen to me. He said there was only one window and not room for two beds, and no near room for him if he took another. You see, here the man is thinking logically. He said, if I can have another window in this room, then you know, there's no space enough to have another window, you know, he wants to say. He said there was only one window and no room for two beds, you see? So the idea, this is the question, he said, maybe this is a small house, you know, and there's no enough, if you like. He's very careful and loving and hardly lets me stir without special direction. So she sees here, she knows and she admits that he's a really careful and loving man. And he really cares about a lot for her, and he gives her instructions or directions or how to care about herself and what to do and what not to do, because remember, as we say, he's giving her these instructions because he's her doctor. You know, originally the authority that he has is he is her doctor. Second, he is her husband. He loves her, he cares for her because he is her husband. And he does not want her really to be in any trouble. And that's why here she knows it and she admits it. I have a schedule here, notice here. I have a scheduled prescription for each hour of the day or in the day. You know, Americans would say schedule. British will say schedule. So I have a scheduled prescription for every hour. He takes all care from me. And so I feel basely ungrateful not to have it, not to value it more. In other words, she wants to say, you know, I was given total care, you know, total attention and everything. And sometimes she said, you know, in a way, she said, I want to do something, you know. I mean, he has given me everything, absolutely, for every hour, what to do and what not to do and all this. And she's saying, maybe this is okay, this is fine, etc. But as if to say, come on, leave me alone for a while. Let me do things my own way, you know. And you know, sometimes we understand that. Notice, he said, we came here solely on my account. Meaning he said, we came here only for you. And because of you, we want you to get cured. You know, he said, solely on my account, meaning I totally came and we came to this house here to the countryside only because we want you to get fresh air. As you know, she said that I was to have perfect rest and all the air I could get. Your exercise depends on your strength, my dear, he said, and your food somewhat on your appetite, but air you can absorb all the time. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. It is a big, airy room, the whole floor nearly, with windows that look all ways, and air and sunshine galore. It was nursery first, and then playground and gymnasium, I should judge, for the windows are barred for little children, and there are rings and things in the walls. So he, you know, it's a big house somehow. Sometimes he said small house or the room, some rooms, but she's saying that this room where I am, it's really nice, big room. I say the whole floor, you know, the whole floor with many windows. He said window, or she said many windows, looking every way, and air and sunshine and everywhere, and the whole thing seems nice. And so notice even the space, like a nursery. Normally nursery needs to be really wide and open. Again, a gym house or a gym room also had to be spacious and big and airy, you know. So really, this is supposed to be, a nice place, a nice big, spacious, lovely room. From all directions, you can see outside. You can, smell fresh air. I mean, what else would you want? What else would you want? The paint and paper look as if a boys' school had used it. It is stripped off, the paper, in great patches all around the head of my bed, about as far as I can reach, and in a great place on the other side of the room, low down. I never saw a worse paper in my life. You see? Now, I think, maybe she's right. She's right. Okay. But we understand, because it's a house which is not tenanted. Remember, it's not inhabited. It has long been untenanted. And we understand that there are cases when we see the neglect and the signs of neglect. But you see, her own comments and ideas that this house is horrible and ugly and the wallpaper is torn to pieces. And she said, it's an ugly paper, see, I have never seen, notice, I never saw a worse paper in my life, as if to say, what a terrible view. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. Well, again, she's saying that the way these papers and the patterns in these papers are really ugly, she said. They are ugly, she said. Sprawling, flamboyant. Again, she's saying, what a terrible way to do it. So she's attacking the decoration, indirectly attacking her husband's, maybe, her husband's, if you like, taste, and the way he did this room or whatever. And she said, this house is ugly. And notice that she said, sin, committing every artistic sin. I mean, the way it's done is really against nature, against beauty. It is dull enough to confuse the eye in following, pronounced enough to constantly irritate and provoke study. When you follow the lame, uncertain curves of a little distance, they suddenly commit suicide, plunge off at outrageous angles, destroy themselves in unheard of contradictions. I think this is really funny. When she's describing here, really the allegory and the metaphor that she's using here. She's saying, comparing, the way the pattern, she's talking about the pattern of the decoration. Remember, this is wallpaper, and wallpaper, normally these papers have paintings or decorations or whatever designs they have and so on. She said, she's saying that these designs really, she said, they gave me headaches. And, as if to say, they are full of terrible, absolutely terrible, horrible things. And that's why he's saying, using the word lame. Notice, irritate, maybe I should highlight those words. Irritate and provoke, again. And she said lame, the lame. Again, really, this is a very funny. And again, suddenly commit suicide. For God's sake, come on, young lady. Why you say that? As if these lines, as if, they make you really, as if they kill themselves. And it's like me here being, on the verge of me killing myself, and again, you know, she is purely unhappy in the whole thing. The color is repellent.
Doctor,
Yeah.
does the paper symbolize something? Like, I feel like it symbolizes her responsibilities, maybe.
Yeah. Can you explain? Can you elaborate? What do you mean? Yeah, I mean,
like it is a temporary.
Sorry?
Like it is a temporary thing that she must feel patient with always, but she doesn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, you can, yeah, Sarah, yes. In a way, of course, the story here, there are many symbolical things which we can explain here. Really, yes, in a way, you can see that reflected, because I think not only her husband is blaming her, but herself is, I think, she knows, because remember at the beginning we said that she knows what she's doing maybe is wrong, and the way she feels is the overexcitement. I think it's her own fault, because she should be more practical and more realistic and more acceptable and more accepting and more realistic, and stop being so naggy, you know, to stop nagging and saying things. And I think in a way, yes, this is symbolical to her own sort of negative reactions towards everything about this house and towards her husband. You know, that's why when she's saying the idea, because again, I think, you know, even the word yellow, you know, even the word yellow is symbolic. The color, notice, the color is repellent, almost revolting. Again, she said smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by slow turning sunlight. And again, you know, it's really, again, the idea here, we see that the narrator is always using her own voice as a character and as a narrator, because you see here all the time the person speaking is herself. We don't have quotations here, who have quotations marks to say that who is speaking here. And so we see here really this about this idea about it. So she is judging, immediately judging as a character and narrator. And yes, I think that's absolutely you know, could be explained and interpreted in this way. And that's why she said, you know, smoldering and unclean, and you know, it's a dull yet lurid orange in some places, a sickly sulfur tint in others. You see, you can see how much she hates all these colors. No wonder the children hated it. I should hate it myself if I had to live in this room long. There comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. Well, I don't know. I don't know, really. Here I think she wants to drive here a message to say that, you know, she wants to say about education and learning and mind and so on. She said, he does not like me writing. Well, maybe some men do that, and some women on those days. Remember, as I said, this is done in the around. Let me see, around the well, turn of the 20th century, when really people still had problems with women's independence and women's, you know, total women's freedom and so on, and this carry on. So when she's saying he hates to have me write a word, you know, really the idea here according to him, because now she does not need to worry about things and she should relax. So the way she understands it is maybe differently from his way. So that's why she is maybe misunderstanding the thing to say, he does not want me to do anything and he does not want me to write. It's nothing here. I think, to me, the idea to say that because she's ill now, because she is sick now, because she is in a sanitarium, she should be in total relaxation. You know, that's why. And I think, as I said, the writer, Gilman wants us to say, or wants us to believe in her own funny way, to say that men sometimes don't like their women to write or to be creative or to write novels. I think that's not true. You know, and this is really the idea here. She wants to make I think she wants us to maybe think like that slightly, or think about it slightly, to say, well, men sometimes are doing this and men should not do this, and so on. We have been, notice here we have been here 2 weeks, and I haven't felt like writing before since that first day. You know, again, here you can see, as I said, you know, when you have these sections, because we like that, as I said, these are big jumps, you know, jumps in time, jumps in the plot, as I said, because she does not have time to give us details. You know, really, she doesn't have time. So that's why she, you know, uses these shots, or if you like, jumps, I should say. I am sitting by the window now, up in this atrocious nursery, and there's nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. John is away all day, even some nights when his cases are serious. I'm glad my case is not serious, but these nervous troubles are dreadfully depressing. You know, again, notice, you know, she's really very well aware about her situation, that she's not really in a big problem, you know. Notice again, John does not know how much I really suffer. He knows there is no reason to suffer, and that satisfies him. Of course, it's only nervousness. It does weigh on me so not to do my duty in any way. Well, yeah. Well, maybe we agree with her and we don't, in a way, yeah, because, you know, again, to say here about, he's saying it's only nervousness, and sometimes, you know, nervousness is not a disease, you know, it's not a disease, it's not sickness, and it should not be sickness in any way. So at least, you know, this is my view at the moment here. So that's why really we, you know, she's saying, or he's saying to her, you know, this is okay, you will be okay, you will be fine. And but, you know, she's saying to me, this is too much. She said, it does weigh on me not to do my duty in any way. So she's giving herself somehow some kind of excuses of not doing something at home or whatever. You know, we have so many, I don't know, I mean, I really I can't read everything here. I want to move to here. She started to tell us about her baby, you know, the result or the reason why she is now sick. she said here when she's explaining this here, she said it's fortunate Mary is so good with the baby, such a dear baby, and yet I can't be with him. It makes me so nervous. Again, you know, the idea about nervousness and about that the young child, remember, this is her own child. She can't be with him now because, you know, of her own sort of nervous situation. And again, she is trying to tell us again, you know, about, I think, giving too much things about this idea of nervousness. Maybe here, if I maybe highlighted it a little bit to really pinpoint this later on. Again, you know, she starts to compare herself again in the same way when she said, John, I suppose John never was nervous in his life. He laughs at me so about this wallpaper. You know, I don't know. I mean, sometimes, yeah, sometimes people, I mean, it depends how men behave and how women behave. And here she's saying, well, he said he has never been through this, and he was never been in his life. Maybe he was never really, sorry. Sorry, let me drink something here. I have my own green tea stuff. You know, comparing herself always to him, I think this is again interesting to highlight that. And she said it really in a very nice way, how he treats her. You know, he told her that he is going to do anything she wants. No, that's what she said. At first, he meant to repair the room, but afterwards he said that I was letting it get the better of me, and that nothing was worse for a nervous patient than to give way to such fancies. Yeah, again here, as if to say her husband maybe was thinking that what she was doing or saying maybe it was fancies, it was not reality. If she wanted new wallpaper, and that's why she's saying this. Notice, he said that after the wallpaper was changed, it would be the heavy bedstead, and then the barred windows, and then that gate at the head of the stairs, and so on. You know, and I think that's true in a way, that sometimes if you give in and you say, yeah, okay, then the months will go on. And that's why he said, at least now we know that he's saying all this because he knows that she's ill somehow, or having problems somehow. That's why he will not obey what she says, if you like, about the thing or about the house. So that's why he's saying, I did not do that. Again, he said this is fantasies again. He said that after the wallpaper was changed, it would be the heavy bedstead. Of course, you know, she goes on here. You know, the place is doing you good, he said. And really, dear, I don't care to renovate the house just for a week, for a 3 months rental. You see, all the time, really, we see that the husband here is an example, absolute example of reality. Sorry, guys, please excuse me for a second, okay? Let me stop presentation. Or am I presenting? No. Yeah, just give me a little second. I need a minute, just a minute. Yeah, okay. As you can see, really, I'm saying here is she gives here. I mean, the writer and of course the character here. You know, the main woman character here who is speaking all the time about that, and even you know. As I said, she gives a lot of details, but I mean, in terms of the span of time, but very brief ideas about, you know, that the differences and the contrasts and the clashes of ideas between her and her husband. Because sometimes we can see, or she wants to say to us about her husband, how her husband was maybe practical, maybe more than her in so many ways, really. And we know, of course, about this question of, you know, of practicality, and he wants to tell her to be okay about this and to accept you know, the facts of life about, you know, this is only a temporal moment to stay or to be here in this house, you know. And again, you know, if you like, notice here when here after a few lines he said, then he took me in his arms and called me a blessed little goose, and said he would go down cellar if I wished, and have it whitewashed into into the bargain, you know. Again, here could be something like, here we go back to Doll's House, you know, using this idea about using phrases like animal phrases to describe her, you know, when you say my goose, right? Of course, you know, husbands, men and women, of course, they speak words like that, endearment words, and so on, and they don't really mean in any way bad associations or bad meanings here towards each other and so on. So you know, that's normal in a sense. Especially she knows it when she said, notice she said, he is right enough about the beds and windows and things. So now, you know, she's saying that he's right. So why do you blame him if he's right? You know, why do you blame him when you know that he's right? You say he is right, you know, when you're saying he is right about everything, about the beds, windows and things. So now you know that he's right. So why do you know, disagree with things? And that's why really, again, here we see, if you like, one or more sides of the criticism that we can use here. It is as airy and comfortable a room as anyone need wish. And of course, I would not be so silly as to make him uncomfortable just for a whim. You know? Again, here she's saying, I know if he's doing it, if he thinks I'm doing it only for a whim, you know the word whim, meaning only a little fantasy. She said, I'm not crazy to ask him to do something for me silly. You know, again, this is nice. I think that's good, because we people should not do things and should not behave in a way and act to some extent to just for the sake of really funny and silly reasons. And then she said, no, I'm fine here in this room, but only I don't like the paper, you know. And again, you know, she said, out of another, I get a lovely view. And here she counts, she goes on to say about the room, how big and how nice and so on. And she said, notice, I always fancy, I see people walking in these numerous paths and arbors. You know, again, here, I think the word fancy, I don't know. Maybe if have you ever studied a poem by Tennyson? Did you? Are you doing now British Survey? Have you done Tennyson?
No, Doctor.
Alfred Tennyson, 19th century. Alfred Tennyson? No? Oh, really? Tennyson gave us a picture like that in a great poem called The Lady of Shalott. The Lady of Shalott. It's a huge, amazing, lovely poem by Lord Alfred Tennyson. Lord Alfred Tennyson, English, 19th century English Victorian poet, who's talking about a lady who was imprisoned in a tower by a curse. She was cursed to be imprisoned into this tower, into this room, where she can't look outside of the window, except she can't look directly except through a mirror. She had to see outside through a mirror, through which she can look into the mirror, and then the reflection she will see outside through the mirror. And I think this is a lovely absolutely image here used by Tennyson to see how people see reality as broken reality, as really elliptical or refracted or fractured or restructured or maybe hallucinated reality. And that's why here, when you know, in a way, this reminds me a little bit of that. Here, I think our friend is in much better situation. Who's this? Just a second. Okay, boys and girls, sorry for interruption. Now, as I say here, you can see the idea about looking out to reality and how you fancy. And this is, as I said, the comparison and contrast with this poem by Tennyson, to see the outside world only as I said, refracted or restructured or in a fanciful way. So that's why when she's saying here, I fancy, always fancy, I see people walking in these numerous paths and arbors, as if to say, I was only allowed to fancy things, as if only allowed to fancy things. And again, I think she said this here. But John, she said, notice, John has cautioned me not to give way to fancy in the least. You know, again, as I said, she's really, you know, she's always highlighting this idea that John controls everything about her. Again, we have to say, you know, we understand John's position as her husband who wants really to take care of her. Remember, you know, I said to you, John is her doctor and he is her husband at the same time. And she's undergoing a treatment. Both could be, you know, for him, he said, could be, you know, physical and psychological treatment. So that's why he's telling her, or, you know, not allowing her or advising her not to do things. Because according to her, cautioned me. Why he's cautioning her? Notice, he says, that's what she's saying. He says that with my imaginative power and habit of story making, a nervous weakness like mine is sure to lead to all manner of excited fancies, and that I ought to use my will and good sense to check the tendency. So I try. You know, again, notice here really is always, I mean, this, you know, this woman really here, she's, I mean, you can see here, she's really a powerful writer, and she's the character here is exactly this only character we have. Of course, we see here as the speaker and narrator, and she's telling us about everybody else, as if to say that the whole story is about this one, one person. We see her all the time, as if to say, I was trying, and I have my own will, I have my own good sense, and I have my own things, but he believes I should not get excited a lot, because this excitement could lead to fancy things, or could be maybe bad things, would give me, bad results. And from her point of view, looking at her own point of view, we understand what she is saying. And at the same time, if we stand in his own side and we say, well, he's saying to her because this would, if you like, really cause her nerves more excitement, and maybe she would be more, could be more dangerous to her health, physically, and if you like here, psychologically. Remember, the problem with her here is physical and then psychological, because this is, as we say, it's the problem after giving birth to her child. And this is the idea, is connected physically and really spiritually or mentally and so on. So she's saying, as if to say, so I try, this sentence here, as if to say, I can't help it. Meaning I'm trying, but I can't help it. It's exactly like, as I said to you in Eugene O'Neill's play, as I said, that play in modern drama that I taught, again, Lady Tyrone is always saying, I was trying, I was trying all the time, but then I come back to it, and this is here again to say, is this addiction? Is this addiction? When you get addicted to something, this could be really terrible and dangerous, and as if to say to us, or to, please understand my case. As if, again, notice when she said, I think sometimes that if I were only well enough to write a little, it would relieve the press of ideas and rest me. Well, again, I don't like this, because she thinks her husband does not want her to write and to be creative and to be, a writer, I think, again, she's doing this and overdoing it. I think she is over highlighting it. And I think in a way she thinks this way. I don't know, maybe because I'm a man now, I'm saying this, but really, he is not like that in this sense, only because she is having a problem that he said, don't just relax, because remember, she is in a time of relaxation. And sometimes writing is not easy. When you sit and write a novel or write a short story or write a book, it's not easy. It's really, mind-racking. And sometimes it's, again, she said, I find I get pretty tired when I try. You see, she's always contradicting herself. Now she said, I want to get relieved if I write. And then she said, oh, no, when I do, no, I get tired. Isn't it? So here we say, come on, lady. حيرتينا يعني, isn't it? This is the idea. Do you want this or do you want that? This is the idea of, we are absolutely confused, And I think this is part of her problem and part of the meaning of the story and part of understanding the mentality of women here, the mentality of this woman. And I think, as if to say, please, you people outside, please understand us, wives and mothers. Sometimes we have our funny, amazing, world, which no one can understand. And maybe this is true. Really, I don't know. I mean, this could be absolutely true. Because here you can see one sentence she said, one thing and then she contradicts herself in the next sentence. Again, notice what she said in the next one. It is so discouraging not to have any advice and companionship about my work. So she wants advice and then again companionship. And notice, when I get really well, John says, we will ask cousin Henry and Julia down for a long visit. But he says he would as soon put fireworks in my pillowcase as to let me have those stimulating people about now. Meaning, you know, he's saying, not now. I want you to get cured first. You know, as if to say, my husband is a nice man. He is a great man. He will do everything I want, but I have to be patient. And that's the problem. She is impatient, you know, being impatient. And I think this is the idea. And this is really interesting to say that this short story about women and feminism and written by a woman, and we're talking here about this question of all this emancipation and in American society at that time, as I told you, in the early 30s and 20s and 30s in America, where people really faced so many sort of, you know, ups and downs, and you know, it was really terrible, if you like, financially and economically and socially or whatever, racially and so on. Again, you know, she admits it. She said, I wish I could get well faster, but I must not think about that. You know, again, look at her lovely sentences, you know, short sentences and short paragraphs. Again, as I said, she wants to, as I told you just minutes ago about these snapshots, you know, these big jumps in her narrative, which is really, she wants to say a lot of things, but she doesn't have time. Again, she said, I must not think, you know. The paper looks to me as if it knew what a vicious influence it had. I think now she begins to hallucinate a little bit. It is really a bit of hallucination, if you like. Again, here we come back to our friend Lord Tennyson, Alfred Tennyson, in that poem, The Lady of Shalott. Again, I think at the end she went crazy and broke the mirror, and she went down. Although she knew, and the curse was, if she breaks the mirror and if she goes out, she will die, because that was the curse, according to mythology and according to our friend, Alfred Tennyson, the English poet. Here in the same thing, she said, the wallpaper is talking to me. Come on. Walls don't talk to us, you know. Walls, I look here in this house, you know, I have nobody here and nobody talks to me. I talk to the walls myself, you know, like talking to you now to this screen, isn't it? Well, sometimes you can talk to me back, good. But you see, this is it. We say, come on, what's wrong with you, lady? And she said, vicious influence. Again, I think, you know, as you can see, I'm reading really every bit here, again, to give you at the end, you can see here, I want to sort of show you that she nearly went crazy, and she jumped and she torn everything to pieces. And she said, that's it. You know, notice here, the wallpaper, look at the next page here. I want really to try, I told you I want to finish this today, but it seems that we have spent a lot of time explaining things. Notice on the next page here, the furniture, look here in the middle of this page. The wallpaper, as I said before, is torn off in spots, and it sticks closer than a brother. This is funny, isn't it? Sticks closer than a brother? What? You know, sometimes girls or ladies think that they are controlled by their parents, by fathers, you know, mainly men, fathers and brothers. And here really she is mocking this idea that this wallpaper really makes me sick. And she said, it sticks, you know, it's not there. It's controlling me. It's killing me like a brother. Oh, come on. She said, they must have had perseverance as well as hatred. You know, we don't hate our sisters, you know. We don't. I don't hate my sisters. I never hated my sisters. Come on. I don't like that. You know, of course, you may say, well, you know, this is fiction, of course. But the idea really, I wanted to see the all perspectives that we have to read this from her own perspective as a woman writer and as a sick woman. Remember, this woman is mentally a little bit ill because we know her problem, right? And that's why maybe she's saying all these things as a result of that. Could be as an excuse, could be something. But again, at the end of the day, we see, you know, really important matters she picks everywhere. But as I said, at the end, really, I want to jump because there are so many things I really love to read for you, ladies and gentlemen. Please, I want you to read all of this. Please read it all, because as you can see, I really can't read it with you all. But maybe I will read a few lines at the end. And then next week, next lecture, I will give maybe another half an hour to give you final discussions about it if you like, because there are many issues. Maybe I will just pinpoint those issues for you quickly and, you know, highlight them with you quickly, and I will show you that, because there are many, many issues. I think they are really nice to be discussed and to be, if you like, you know, wisely looked at and critically looked at and analytically looked at, and to understand the various facets, really the various facets of things, and the opinions and ideas here from there and so on. So really there are no, I think there are no correct answers and bad answers here. You know, things are possible and applicable and can be, you know, taken somehow lightly, somehow negatively, somehow, you know, sometimes you accept them or you reject them. At the end of the day, she, as you can see, I will read what she said. Notice when she torn everything, and her husband came and broke in the door as if she was, you know, crazy and all that. And I think this is the final conclusion here, is really is if you like, really dramatically strong here. When her husband came, notice when she notice now he's, look at the last few lines. I'll read that. It's no use, young man, you can't open it. How he does call and pound. Now he's crying for an axe. It would be a shame to break down the beautiful door. John dear, said I in the gentlest voice, the key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf. That silenced him for a few moments. Then he said, very quietly indeed, open the door, my darling. I can't, said I. The key is down by the front door under a plantain leaf. And then I said it again several times, very gently and slowly, and said it so often that he had to go and see. He got it, of course, and came in. He stopped short by the door. What is the matter? He cried. What is the matter? He cried. For God's sake, what are you doing? I kept on creeping just the same, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I've got out at last, I've got out at last, said I, in spite of you and Jenny. And I have pulled off most of the paper, so you can't put me back. La ilaha illallah. Come on, young woman. I've got out at last. Was it a prison? Was it a prison? And look at the word, Jenny pulled off most of the paper, so you can't put me back. Now, look what she said, the last line here, as a narrator. Why should that man have, why should that man have fainted? But he did. And right across my path by the wall, so that I had to creep over him every time. What a shame. Look at this. The man, what? He had fainted. Now, why should that man have fainted? But he did, she said. He did. And right across my path by the wall, so that I had to creep over him every time. That's it. Really, it's a funny final conclusion, really amazing conclusion. It's exactly the opposite of what the original intention of the husband, and the total misunderstanding and confusion, absolute confusion and so on. But of course, we understand all that throughout what she was saying here. Remember, there is a note written by her. It's a note here written by her. She said, why I wrote the yellow wallpaper, written 1913. Please, again, read it, because it's really good and important. And she said here, she said, I wrote this, she said, notice, she said, I suffered from a severe and continuous nervous breakdown, tending to melancholia. You see, so this is the question here, which is similar to epilepsy, or similar to hypochondria, or similar to being really, you know, some kind of phobia or some kind of crazy streaks, isn't it? So she's saying that. Anyway, I will stop here today, and I will finish, if you want any discussion with that next time, I will finish it with you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be more than happy to do that with you next time. And I will stop recording now. If you have any question, please do ask.